My relationship with Park Chan-Wook is honestly pretty limited. I've only seen Old Boy and Decision to Leave, and even though people have been telling me for years that I have to watch The Handmaiden or Lady Vengeance and all the others, I just didn't. They kind of slipped past me. But Decision to Leave blew me away back in 2022, and I remember thinking, okay, whatever this guy does next, I'm there. So when I heard he was adapting Donald Westlake's The Axe, a project he'd apparently been trying to get off the ground for over a decade, my interest shot straight up. And after finally watching No Other Choice, I can say, this is one of the most entertaining and deranged films of the year. It's funny, it's grim, it's beautifully crafted, and it left me both delighted and emotionally gutted, in that classic Park Chan-Wook way where you're laughing 1 minute and staring into the void the next. The setup is simple. Man-Soo, played by Lee Byung-hun, is a veteran paper manufacturing specialist, and he gets laid off after 25 years at the same company. One day he's secure in his suburban life, and the next he's told that he's functionally obsolete. The paper industry is shrinking, jobs are scarce, and he's suddenly competing with hundreds of other people who have resumes that look exactly like his. Even when he does get an interview at Moon Paper, it goes so poorly that you just want to cover your eyes. And so in a moment of desperation that feels horrifying and weirdly understandable, he convinces himself that the only way forward, the only choice, is to eliminate the other candidates one by one. On paper, pun absolutely intended, this sounds like a grim thriller, but Park Chan-Wook shoots it like a Looney Tunes fable, where every murder attempt gets derailed by silly, almost slapstick mishaps. Watching Man-Soo try to be a killer is like watching someone try to assemble IKEA furniture using only rage and delusion. I honestly wasn't prepared for how funny this movie is, and not quippy comedy. It's this awkward, physical, dark humor where the joke is almost always Man-Soo himself. He's just bad at this. Painfully bad. The universe keeps humiliating him. There's a moment early on where he's stalking his first victim in the woods, and then he gets bitten by a snake, and the victim's wife suddenly becomes an expert and starts doing all the wrong things to help. The look on Man-Soo's face later when he reads the correct procedure and realizes that she may have made everything worse had me doubled over. It's so dumb in the best possible way. And Lee Byung-hun is incredible here. I could watch his performance for hours. He somehow makes Man-Soo pathetic, sympathetic, terrifying, and endearing all at once. There's something elastic about the way he shifts between emotions, like a guy who can't stop recalibrating himself to fit a world that keeps changing the rules on him. A big part of why this movie works so well for me is that it nails something that I've been feeling about work, career, and identity. That sense that your value as a human being is tied to a job market that doesn't give a damn about you. I'm not out here plotting to murder anyone, but that desperation that Man-Soo feels, that panic, that sense of if I don't make something happen, my whole life unravels. Yeah, I get that. And the movie knows that that feeling is universal. At the Q&A screening that I attended, Park Chan-Wook mentioned that when he talked to people around the world about this project, that he was planning on making it, so many of those people felt connected to the story. And I totally see why. Even though the film takes place in South Korea, I never felt like I was watching something distant or culturally specific. I felt myself in it, in the anxiety, the dread, the pressure of keeping a family afloat. And speaking of family, I love how the film treats Man-Soo's household. His wife Miri starts to put the pieces together long before he thinks she does. She sees the late nights, the weird behavior, the way their finances are drying up. Their kids feel the pressure. Their son literally turns to stealing iPhones to help with money problems. There's a moment where Man-Soo and Miri are burying those stolen phones in the yard as if they're planting an apple tree, which should be ridiculous, but somehow Park makes it poignant. And formally, this movie is wild. Park is just flexing at this point. The cinematography is inventive in ways that made me whisper, how the hell did they shoot that? More than once. There are camera placements I've never seen before, transitions that feel like magic tricks, a soundtrack that flips from classical to Hold On, I'm Coming by Sam and Dave without warning, double exposures used like emotional punctuation rather than gimmicks. It's a dizzying, hyper-stylized ride. At times, it feels like Park filtered all of his sensibilities through Edgar Wright's kinetic editing and the Coen brothers' tonal whiplash. Like if you mixed Hot Fuzz, Burn After Reading, Old Boy, and a Wile E. Coyote cartoon, you'd get something close to No Other Choice. The film takes a little while to lock in, which is probably my biggest ding against the movie, as well as overstaying its welcome by about 10 minutes. For maybe the first 45 to 60 minutes, I kept saying, okay, so where is this going? But once it kicks into gear, it becomes one of those movies that just keeps getting better and better as it goes along. Beneath the humor and the surrealism, No Other Choice is a eulogy for the idea of stable labor. It's a movie about the death of professions, the obsolescence of skills, and the growing realization that human flourishing now requires someone else's loss. Something I haven't touched on enough yet, and something this movie absolutely demands that you sit with, is the way that Park Chan-wook uses Mansu's unraveling to talk about capitalism and the way that it shapes our sense of identity. And I don't mean capitalism in the abstract academic sense. I mean the sort of day-to-day lived experience of trying to survive in a system that tells you that your worth is your output and that everyone around you is, at best, a competitor and, at worst, an obstacle. There's this idea in Marxism, and honestly all throughout modern political philosophy, that capitalism alienates people from the things that they make. But watching No Other Choice, I kept thinking about a deeper kind of alienation, the way that capitalism alienates us from each other and from ourselves. Because the logic of Mansu's world is the logic that we are all kind of quietly drowning in. Your job isn't just your job, it's who you are. Your salary isn't just money, it's your dignity. Your fellow workers aren't allies, they're threats. The film starts with Mansu living this ideal middle-class life, a comfortable home, hobbies, extracurriculars for the kids, pets, little luxuries, and all of it evaporates the moment he loses his job. Not because he changed, not because he failed, but because the system decided it no longer needed him. There's something existentially cruel about that. And what Park does that I find so brilliant is that he never portrays Mansu as greedy. He's not trying to ascend. He's trying to hold steady. He's trying to be normal, to maintain the life that he already had, and yet the market has made that impossible. His competitors aren't supervillains. They're like him in different fonts. They're men with kids, men with debts, men who got blindsided by the same economy that devoured him. The scene-by-scene depiction of this pressure is honestly pretty brutal. We have the alcoholic first competitor who drinks to cope, not because he's lazy, but because he can't imagine his way out of economic failure. And then you have that man's wife, who isn't portrayed as cruel when she snaps. She's exhausted by a man who has lost hope within a system that gives him no way to contribute. Then we have the second competitor, the man at the shoe store. He's actually trying to rebuild his life for the sake of his young daughter. He's the model case of a struggling worker doing everything right, and Mansu kills him anyway because the system pits one man's survival directly against another's. And then we have the final competitor, the influencer manager, who's just trying to maintain his own upward mobility by humiliating the people beneath him because the system rewards that. And that sort of goes to the larger point that no one in this film is evil. They're trapped, they're cornered, they're misaligned gears grinding against each other. Capitalism isn't the backdrop here, it's sort of the antagonist. And what really devastates me is that No Other Choice isn't saying people become monsters under capitalism. It's saying something scarier and more honest. Under capitalism, there are no villains, only victims positioned so poorly that harming each other starts to feel rational. Mansu doesn't kill these men because he hates them. He kills them because the structure of the market tells him, subtly but relentlessly, that individual survival is a zero-sum game. The film's title isn't ironic. It's the logic of the system. It's the thing that capitalism whispers into your ear when it strips away your safety net. If you want to survive, you have no other choice. And you feel the consequences ripple through every corner of the story. The family loses their pets because they can't afford them. An insane thing to think about, but totally normal now. Their son steals iPhones because that's the only side hustle available to him. The house goes into foreclosure because one too many missed paychecks become a financial crater. The whole world is stretched thin. No one has enough, not enough money, not enough time, not enough patience, not enough hope. And the film is brutally clear. This is not a personal failing. This is the design of the system. Mansu's choices make sense because the world around him keeps telling him that the only way to hold on to stability is to eliminate competition. And when the job market shrinks, which is literally happening in the film through AI, which I'll talk about later, competition becomes weaponized. And the truly devastating part, when he finally wins, the job doesn't need him anymore. The victory is sort of symbolic, sort of obsolete. That's the punchline of capitalism in the age of automation. By the time you claw your way to the top, the ladder has been removed. Mansu becomes the perfect tragic figure of late capitalism, hyper skilled in a field that no longer values skill, desperate to provide for a family that the economy has turned into collateral damage, convinced that survival requires eliminating his peers and ultimately replaced by technology anyway. It's a eulogy for an economic system that asks human beings to behave like machines and then discards them the second that actual machines do the job better. We've built a world where everyone's worth is determined by output, but we've also built a world where machines can output more than we can. So now what? That's why the ending is funny and devastating at the same time. Watching Mansu celebrate his new job as the factory practically runs itself feels like watching the last human at Chuck E. Cheese clapping for the animatronics. He's cheering for a victory that's already erased him. And honestly, that's why this film feels so urgent, because you look at the world we're living in, you look at layoffs, gig work, automation, burnout, rising costs, shrinking wages. I see Mansu everywhere. Not the murders, obviously, but the fear, the anxiety, the feeling that your worth is conditional and your survival is provisional. The movie isn't just about unemployment, it's about existential precarity. It's about being alive in a world where stability is often temporary, where doing everything right doesn't guarantee anything, where one bad quarter, one buyout, one algorithm can erase your entire life. For me, that's the beating heart of No Other Choice. It's Park Chan-Wook saying, look at what we built. Look at what it demands. Look at how it turns neighbors into competitors and workers into ghosts. No Other Choice left a huge impression on me. It's one of those movies that's an absolute blast in the moment. It's stylish, it's funny, it's surprising, but then lingers because of what it's actually saying. I walked out laughing at the slapstick and weirdness, but also thinking about work, identity, AI, aging, survival, and the ethical corners people back themselves into when the world refuses to give them any slack. I also left kind of wishing more American filmmakers took swings like this, big stylistic gambles, strange tonal mixes, hyper-specific character choices. Park reminds you that cinema can be both playful and pointed, that a movie can be ridiculous and still cut straight to your heart. When the daughter finally plays the cello for her mother at the end, seeing Miri's face, I nearly welled up. And even though the world the film depicts feels pretty bleak, I walked away weirdly grateful that we still get movies like this, films that entertain the hell out of you while simultaneously asking, is this really the future we want? Is this the present that we already find ourselves in? So at the end of the day, No Other Choice is one of the best films of the year, and you should absolutely give it a shot whenever it's playing near you. But what did you guys think? Let me know down in the comments if you've seen No Other Choice and what your thoughts are on the film. Let me know what other Park Chan-Wook films I should watch next. I've already seen Oldboy and Decision to Leave. I really want to see some more of his films, so let me know what you think is his next best down in the comments. And when you're done down there, don't forget to like this video, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell to be notified when new videos come out on this channel. You could then go follow me over on Letterboxd to see what I'm watching, when I'm watching it. And with that, I'll see you all next time.